Welcome to How to Make a Mod in Bloons Tower Defense 6. So, I've done this series before, but it's old, so a lot of the stuff is outdated. So I just want, and it's also kind of bad, so I just wanted to improve upon it. So, before we start, we're gonna need a few things. If we go over to our browser, I will be using Writer for this tutorial, so if you want Writer, just do Writer download. And then just click on the first link, make sure some JetBrains, and then you just download the installer and it will install for you. I already have Writer installed, so I have no need to do this. For Visual Studio, which you know, you can come here and you don't want Visual Studio Code. You can use it, but it's just not as helpful for .NET and Unity stuff. So you see, there's all this stuff here. It's just a bunch of slop. You can go to downloads, and you want to get the community edition because these cost money. These ones are free. So you click this button and download it. The what it does is it like installs a manager for you, and it will automatically install Visual Studio 2026. Make sure you just get .NET 6.0, and I believe the Unity could help sometimes, but it's not that important to get that. So if you're like low on space, you don't need to get the Unity one. I would recommend Writer. It's a lot better. So we're back in Bloons Tower Defense 6. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our mods folder, and we're gonna have mods folder, mods menu. We're gonna click create mod, and we're gonna come right here, and you name it whatever your mod in title case or Pascal case, whatever you want to call it. So that is pretty much uppercase out of each word, the first letter. So you know it won't be like that, or like this, or like in camel case, so like example mod, or in snake case, like you can't even have underscores in this anyway. So just do your mod name like this. Okay, each word should start with a capital, even, you know, those words like, and I forget what they're called, but like just like this should be fine. And then you just click OK and you click yes. And you give it a second. So now it'll open it up. And a Writer, it just automatically opens the README. You will want to change this later, whenever you're gonna publish your mod. The first step I will do, which is immediately go to mod helper data.cs, and here I would change the name because right now it's just the name of the project. So space, no, make sure it's all spaced out, capitalization is correct. Description, make it with your description. So now the repo owner, if you have a GitHub account, if you don't have a GitHub account, you should make a GitHub account. But if you do have a GitHub account, you just make this the name of GitHub account. So for me, that is DarkTerrorYT. Then repo name. This is just name their repository is going to be, usually just the mod name. So like example mod. And then okay, and then you can leave everything else here. If this is like not a finished version, you can change the version like that. I'm gonna keep the I'm just gonna make this 2.1. This is the second version of the series, and it's the first episode. So now we're gonna, so in example mod, we're just gonna delete the on application start method because we don't need that, and you don't need to touch anything else here. If you want the other than that, be just the repo owner. But yeah, I would also delete these to-do statements right here. There we go. So I would come down here and add public const string author. And what this changes what it says in the menu. So if you come back over here to Bloons, you can see how it says Gurn M4 and Doom Bubbles. The repo owner is Gurn M4, but since Doom Bubbles presumably changed the author to be Gurn M4 and Doom Bubbles, this is both of those. So Usually, if I didn't change the author for this, it would just say Dark Tarot IT. Because I changed this as Lurk McGurk. So that's really just basics of this. So now to make a tower, there is a few things you can do. Okay, well, there's a few things you need to do. You don't need to do this. I like having organized so we can make a towers folder. And then in your towers folder, or just in the project, anywhere in the project, doesn't matter where it is. You just want to make a new class. So this should be tower name in title case, just like your mod. So like if you want it to be called cool tower, you'd be cool tower.cs, right? If you wanted to make it called, you know, super mega OP tower, super mega OP tower, like this. Okay. This just helps the name be correct within the game. So we'll do example tower. And then we have our class here, and first things first, if you're using Visual Studio, you should make your class from, because by default it will be an internal class. Just for, you know, reasons, if you want to access this class outside of your mod, make it public. Down here, we're gonna inherit from mod tower. So to do that, you just put a space, or you don't even need a space. You can just put a colon right there. Writer telling me to do tower. That's just incorrect. You do mod tower, and you do this first one. Okay, I like to have spaces because that's how you're meant to format it. And then you just implement missing members. So press Alt Enter on here, and then here, let me undo that. So you press Alt Enter, and then you click implement missing members. Or if you're in same thing in Visual Studio, you can also click just right here for the contact actions and click implement missing members. Great, so now we're just gonna remove that throw statement there, and we're gonna change the tower set. So whenever it has override in it and it says get, we need to make sure it has the arrow, like equals arrow. This is pretty much just short for get. If you wanted to, you could just keep it, you know, as get and then have return, you know, tower set dot whatever. It's cleaner to do this though. So tower set, and then here you can see all of your tower sets. There's a way to make a custom tower set, which I might show in the future, but I'll make this a primary tower. So tower set primary. Usually this is just the English name of it after tower set. And then in base tower, we have you could either just do dart monkey like this for if you want to be a dart monkey, or what you can do is tower type dot, and then you have all of your towers here. Some of these are not actually counted as towers by the game, but as power towers, which are kept in a different place. However, you can just look through these, pick the tower you want to be the base tower. So I usually just do dart monkey. This is the most basic tower in the game. And then cost, this is how much it costs in medium mode. So let's say you wanted it to be cost, you know, 1,300 or 1,130 in hard mode. You would set this as 1,000 because hard mode has 13% more expensive towers, and I think easy mode is 7% cheaper. I would just make this like 815, so it will cost 815 cash in medium mode. So now first things first, what we should do is we just test to make sure that this works. Right, so we're going to close Balloon Tower Defense 6. And you're going to come down and select Balloons BTD6 here, and you're going to just click the run button. If you're in Visual Studio, it'll have it already on BTD6, and you can just click run. So now we just let the game open up. And as it loads, we should see our mod in the mods menu. After click start and go to the mods menu, you can see there's no exclamation mark or anything, which means it should have registered properly, but you always just want to make sure. So you can go to monkeys, and we can see our example tower with nothing really. And then if we go into the game, if it loads. Okay, so the game crashed and my computer kind of got messed up, so I had to restart, but we'll restart my computer. So we're just gonna try this again from square one. Well, not square one. You get what I mean. Okay. Now we're gonna get back to business. We already proved that there's no registration error, so we're gonna come straight into sandbox, and my computer does not crash out this time. You can see the towers right here. We put it down. This is a dart monkey that costs a lot more. As you can see, much more. You can see how does it cost $8.15 if we go to not easy mode, medium mode. We can see it costs $8.15. That's great. So now we're just gonna go back right to Rider. We can click the stop button. And now before anything else, I'm actually gonna show you how I make the portrait. So first thing I do is I just come to my browser, and if you have Photoshop, you can use Photoshop, but I do not have Photoshop, so I use Photo-P. And in Photo-P, what we can also do is go to the Balloons fandom, and we can just take Dart Monkey portrait, and we can just make a new project. Call it Dart Monkey, or no, call it Example Monkey dash portrait. This should be like the name that you called your tower class. This part dash portrait. If you don't want to name it this, I'll show you how to change it later. So we'll come not black. We want a transparent background, and you want to. Okay. I said you want to paste this in here, and now you can cut this apart, change everything if you want. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna move the outline. Or actually just cut the outline because I want it later for the color. We cut off the arm like so. That's not what I wanted, but whatever. Now we cut it. Oh, nope, wrong layer. And now over here, we're gonna just take this other arm. Perspective's kind of off, but I don't really mind too much. Now we're just gonna take all of this stuff. Well, I didn't mean like all of that stuff. There we go. And we're gonna come and take this finger right here too, and Control C, Control V. We can hide this, make sure we got everything. We did. So we take our hand here, look for the utmost layer, turn off the outline actually, and you need to press Control Alt T to go into this freeform mode, and you just flip it like that. And then you want to scale it to fit the proportions, so go back to freeform transform, and preferably you make it keep its proportions again, and yeah, I'll make sure to be behind. And then here we can go back to freeform transform, go to warp, and you just warp it until it's connected. And this outline piece, it was not removed. Let me just delete that. There. Now you can see we have two arms that are just normal. It looks kind of funky because of the coloring. If we wanted, you could fix that, just like change it a little bit. That looks kind of horrible, but whatever. Bam. I'm not a master artist, alright? Then we merge our layers. Or actually no, I'll show you something else. So with your arm, what you can do is you can come to edit, puppet warp, and you can put down like anchors. You know, if you use Adobe Animate, this is pretty much like a bone animation kind of. And then you can like move it wherever you want. Now his arm is kind of bent. You know, and you can make things be just in different layers. So I want this part be above the torso. I said hello. There we go. So now we fill in this part. And that looks kind of ugly. So we're actually gonna take the spot healing brushes. Works wonders, by the way. So you just drag it over the part where you want to fix, and it fixes it. Please don't use this if you're just trying to like color in things, because it only works for things less colored. So like simple textures like this. And now we can merge this layer, turn this one back on, and you can see it's not correct. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take our stroke function here, our layer style. We're going to take this color, and then we can just increase it until it works. So I think 7 is the right number for this resolution, and bam, you have made a portrait. Now we go to export as, and we have our thing here, and that is a leak that no one was supposed to see. So we're gonna go to documents, mod sources, example monkey, towers, and save. So now we have our portrait here. And now if you want to make an icon that's different for the tower, you can do that. Just change dash portrait to dash icon, but what I do is I prefer to do override icon, and then we just do portrait here. Now here I'll say portrait is class name dash portrait dot png, or then I'll put that in just parentheses. So if you wanted to paint, if you didn't want your portrait to be called this, for example, you wanted to maybe be named, I don't know, just portrait because you are lazy, then you would come here and you would say overwrite portrait, and then you would change this to just be portrait. And now you can see it's the same as the file name. I'm going to remove that though and rename this to be the same as before. So now to test this, you should always test your mod a lot when you're making it, because you don't want to make 10,000 things and then nothing works and now you're scared and you don't want to have to restart because you have no idea what is broken. If you have, more experience with coding, you can probably figure out how to find what's broken. But I know a lot of people have never coded a day in their life, so oh, because I called that example mod. No. Oh, sorry. The tower is called example tower. I'm gonna rename this to example monkey. This is why we test, by the way, because I always forget things. So example monkey.cs, and now that will work. As I said, you should always test lots. So all of your time making mods will be just waiting for the game to load up, so you can just see if whatever you made works. And I'm sick and tired of going to a sandbox game, so we're just gonna go to monkeys, and bam, look how beautiful he is. Okay, his arm is bent, he's ready to go. So we can quit the game, and now we have, so there's a few things we can do to change how the tower works. So First thing you can do is you can get the attack model. So you can do var or attack model. Var, I prefer var because you don't need to type so much. The var attack model will be equal to tower model, attack model. Okay. Now this will be the first attack. If you have multiple attacks for your tower, so you have like, I don't know, not the super monkey, the wizard monkey paragon with multiple attacks, you would just do for each. Not var attack model. Then tower model dot get attack models. And then this will just iterate through every single attack model the tower has. But since since Dark Monkey only has one attack model, we can just do this. And if you want to get, or if there's multiple attack models, you want to change one attack model, you will change this. So by default, it's 0. So 1 is actually would be the second attack model. Just so you know, and then we have var weapon will equal attack model dot weapons 0. This can also just be tower model dot get weapon, which is the first weapon the tower has. So since Dark Monkey has one weapon, we could just use tower model to get weapon. But this is just here because if the attack model has multiple weapons, you want to get the second weapon, you do that and it works. And then we can do one more thing. We can get the projectile, which is just, and then boom, and then this is the projectile the tower shoots. I don't know why it's complaining here. Yeah. What the exclamation mark does is it just says that this here is not null. So before this was being a nullable weapon, but now it's saying this always exists. Okay, null means that there's no value, it doesn't exist. So now, to change the range of the tower, what we can do is we can do tower model dot, we can set the range directly. If you want to increase or decrease the range, you can use increase range. And what this does is this will increase tower model dot range by 10, and the range for each attack model by 10. So this would be like tower model get attack models dot for each attack model dot range plus equals increase, like that. So now if we want to make the if you want to set the range directly, you can just do tower model dot range and equals whatever you want, short range. And then you also need to make sure you set it for your attack model as well. The tower model range is just the circle that you see around it. So if you set tower model range to 100 and your attack model dot range is, I don't know, 15, the tower will only see 15 units, only attack 15 units around it, not 20 or 100. And this is just so that you can have attacks with different ranges. So if we want to, just back to, if we want to change the attack speed, we do rate. And if we want to set attack 2 times faster, we just divide it by equal to 2. But what's more efficient is just to do 0.5. You don't need to worry about this since this is a code that gets ran once. So for example, if you're doing like a patch or something that ran like every frame, how many things, this would be more efficient. You don't need to worry about that right now. But pretty much, if I wanted to attack once every 5 seconds, 5. Okay, this would not be shoots every 5 times every second. It shoots once every 5 seconds. So I'll set this to 30.33 F. So we use F here because this is the float, and this tells the compiler that it's the float, not a double. So I'll right here, I just comment attack speed in seconds. Add an F at the end if decimal number or non-integer. So to increase the there's a lot of other things you can do. You can change the emission for this. You can add behaviors, change which animation it uses whenever you fire. We don't need to worry about that right now. We can just, you know, if you want to set the emission, you should use the set emission extension method. And here you can do like new arc emission model, and you just name this like emission or something. And then the count was how many you wanted to fire. So if I want to be like a triple dart monkey, we do that. The offset, I don't know. At this point, I've tried to mess with it before. I have no clue what it does. I think it's just how far away from wherever it's shooting. You know, like how far out of the tower it shoots from. And then I believe triple dart monkey shoots in a 45-degree spread. So the angle is spread. And if you want to have it, you know, shoot in like 22.2 degrees, you add an F to the end. We're doing 45. I'll put an F just so people know it's a float, I guess. This is what you're supposed to do. You don't need to put an F at the end if you don't want to. And then you just put null for the behaviors, unless you have behaviors you want, which I never use behaviors. And then these can be false. Now what this does is makes the tower shoot 3 darts in a 45-degree spread. And then if you want it to, if you want to increase the damage, we have var damage model equals projectile dot. I prefer to do get descendant damage model. You can do projectile dot get damage model, but it will error if it is not directly attached to the projectile. And now, to change this, change the amount of damage you do, you can just do damage model dot damage, and you can add, subtract, or set it. So, plus equals, I feel like you should have realized this by now. Plus equal adds, just directly adds. So it's pretty much just short for damage model dot damage plus 10, right? Instead, you sort of do that. Minus equal subtracts, same way that I just showed, with minus sign instead. And this just directly sets the amount of damage. So I wanted to do, if you want to increment by 1, you do plus plus. You want to de-increment by 1, you just do minus minus. So this will make it do 0 damage. This does 1 damage, or 1 more damage. Okay, so 1 to 2. Plus plus increments. Minus minus de-increment. I don't know what the word is actually for that. I'll change that later by 1. And then if you want to change what balloons it can hit, you do immune balloon properties. So now let's say right now the dart monkey can't hit purples or lead. So if you want to hit not purples, frozen balloons in lead. So if we want to be able to hit everything, we just set it to none. If we also want it to not be able to hit purple balloons, we do vertical bar equals, and I believe we can set this to, if we want it to not be able to hit you know, like purple balloons there. you want it to just be able to hit, not be able to hit lead, so we just set it to lead. If it's frozen, we set it to frozen. If you don't want it, if you just want to be able to not be able to hit like black balloons, you just set it that. If you want to be able to hit black or white balloons, do this. So will make it also not able to hit that type. And then equals, and then balloons properties. And then using just equals. Nope. We'll override it. And then using vertical bars in after the equals. We'll do all of those. So now, for example, this can't pop black balloons, black balloons, white balloons, frozen balloons, or lead balloons. So to make that true, I just add a vertical bar right there. Okay, so now here, to change the amount of pierce your projectile has, you come to projectile.pierce and you increment it. You can, add 2, 3. You can set it directly, so that mark is 3 by default. Here's 10 balloons. That's not what I want at all, actually. Redder. So this pierces through, this can hit 11 balloons. So pretty much, it can go through 10 balloons, and then it gets destroyed. If pierces equals 0 and hits the balloon, it just destroys itself immediately. To change the display, I'll have a video on that later. It'll probably be with the next episode. To add behaviors to your projectile, you do projectile.addBehavior, and you can do whatever you want. So if you want to make it, I don't know. Let's look at these. There's a lot of behaviors. I'll add a slow model to it. So now this will slow every balloon it hits. So we can name this slow model, low or something. And then this is, so if you do 0, the balloon will just stop moving forever. If you do 0.5f, it'll be at half speed. If you do 9f, it'll be 10% slower. Lifespan, just how long it lasts. So it's seconds. So if you want it to last for 900 seconds, you put 900. When it lasts for 5 seconds, you put 5. And then for mutation ID, I would do like slow, or as in like tower name, and then like whatever you have at the end. This pretty much just makes it so that the mutation will be applied like 15,000 bajillion times. And then layers is how many like layers will last through. So if you wanted to like last from like a green to red, you would put 3 layers. If you want it to last forever, just put a bunch of 9s, and that usually works. Overlay type, we just put nothing there because we don't have an overlay. Is unique. I think it's usually true. Don't refresh duration. So this means if the balloon is hit again, it will not refresh the duration. So let's say a balloon already has it, it will not get set back to 5 seconds. If this is set as false, when the projectile hits the balloon, it already has a mutation, it will be reset back to the lifespan, which right now is 5 seconds. Effect model. I feel like null usually works. Cascading mutators. You don't remember what that does. Usually it's false. Mutator not matching. False. False. Because this is not glue. If it is glue, you put true. Chance. This is like the chance it has of applying. I would just put 100. I think it's in that format. Not really sure. You can leave everything else here. These, so if it has like the equals at the end, those are optional parameters. You do not need to worry about those. So now we have here, I will separate this just so it's a little bit more readable, and we will, here I'll put makes balloons 10% slower for 5 seconds. So then this is how you add a behavior. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, you should probably also do update closing pass list whenever you have something that applies. If you change, if you add a model, a behavior that applies once the projectile hits something, you always want to just do update closing pass list. I'll show how to do an overlay later in the series, probably. And I don't believe there's anything else I want to show here. Let me just take a quick look. Oh, yeah, okay, now there's one more thing. If you want to have it do more damage to a certain type of balloon, you do add behavior. And you do new, and then there's a damage modifier. And then you can have it for a balloon state, for a balloon type. If the balloon has a certain modifier, if it's a certain round, if the balloon has a certain tag. These are very specific. So if you wanted to have damage modifier that the middle path alchemist does, you use this. For the bottom path the druid, you use this. This stuff is things you never use ever. So tag model is what you usually use. So, you know, if you want to make it do damage to Moabs in general, put Moabs as the tag. So here you put Moabs for the tag. Damage modifier, it does, you know, 50% more damage to Moabs, and it is 0 extra damage. And true. Or, you know, I'll do false, because I don't know how you do multiple tags for one. Then apply over max damage. If you want it to apply over max damage, you put true. If you don't, put false. You know, it's kind of obvious. Then ignore tag. I don't know why you'd ever use that, but it pretty much just ignores the tag and applies everything for whatever reason you want that. It does 50% or 1.5 times more damage, I guess. And then for a Moab specifically, do just Moab. Do Moab class balloons. So now, and then you want to do projectile that has damage modifiers equals true. Now, to make your tower see camo, I'll come down here. So you want to do tower model, get descendants. It's that fancy thing again. I know, it's kind of crazy. And then you do filter, invisible, invisible model. For each, and then we do filter. Filter dot is active equals false. Set this to true if you don't want it to see camo. So now, this is everything I think you need to know for making a tower. If we run the game, we should see all of our changes have taken place. Now, I know I kind of ignored exactly what I said about you should test slots. You should test slots. I'm just trying to speed it up a little bit because, you know, testing every single time you add one behavior is kind of slow. So, you don't need to test it that often. I would recommend testing it, you know, every single time you finish one thing. So you don't end up with 15,000 things that may be broken. So we have our tower right here. Kind of boring. He does look like a dart monkey. We can change that later. We can go to our test balloon and wow, and you can kind of see how the balloon gets slower. I think. Here, let's see. Does it look slower? um, it feels slower, but that might just be, I don't know what that is called again, but you know, it feels a little faster now too. I might be hallucinating, but it definitely is not. No, it definitely is slowing down. Yeah, so you can see that everything worked. Okay, we have 3 darts now instead of 1. We should do more than just 3 balloons. He does a lot of damage, like, I think he has 3 damage? Oh, he has 2 damage. Yeah. He just pops that because I think... Let's see. Yeah, because there's 3 darts. And you can see he can't pop either of these. There's no sound for it because that's just special to, ceramic, lead, purple, and frozen balloons. Because the game doesn't have sound effect for these. Same thing for like the ice monkey, you can see. It actually just doesn't target lights at all. Or no, it does. You can see how there's no sound for it at all. My microphone was muted while I was recording a segment, and pretty much I just explained. I changed the description and the display name of it with some comments here. So this is the text shown under the name of the tower in the upgrades menu. You know, where it said like example mod dash example monkey like dash description or something. But then this is the display name. So as the text is here, if you're also called Moa monkeys, but exactly like that, it will show up as MOAB monkey in game. If you have it, you know, in title case like it should be, it will, you know, Moab monkey like this. It will show up as Moab monkey, but with incorrect capitalization. So you'd override this and make it say Moab monkey, but Moab's in all caps. That is really just it. So now, if you test the game, or not test the game, test the mod again, it should work perfectly and fine, and we will all have fun, and we will be very happy with our lives. Because we have made our first tower. Well, I have made my first tower. You just made your first tower. So we can look in game, example monkey. This is an example monkey, woohoo! And if we go into game, you'll see it's still called example monkey, and it says the exact same thing. Because that's the exact same scene. Anyways, yeah, so that is the end of this episode, and I'll see you all in the next one. So peace.